Good evening. This is Maestro with the Heroes of the Storm replay cast. Today we have a match from the Heroes Lounge Amateur Series, and this is going to be from Heroes Lounge Division 1 of North America, which is the second highest skill bracket or rating system in Heroes Lounge. And on the right side, we are going to have the members of ReGen Retro, and we're going to have ZammyBARS on Tyrael, Ultanian on Greymane, Deltron on Ana, Splash on Kelthos, and Aaron on Sonya. On the other side, we're going to have the members of Choking Hazards. It's going to be IJustFizzed on ETC, silverripper on Junkrat, Albatoxx on Blaze, Aeko on Rainer, and finally it's going to be Envy on Malfurion. This is Infernal Shrines, and here we do see, of course, our just starting mid-battle, which often just happens at the start of a game, although Blaze already looks like he's splitting off in this case. Nope, decides he's going to come back here for that fight in the mid. And Rainer going to be here, peppering in some damage on Tyrael, now on Sonya, and doesn't look like too much is going to be achieved with this first bout in the mid. So it looks like we're going to see, it's going to be our solo laners rotating to the top as expected. Blaze versus Sonya. Blaze is someone who I do feel, although we do still see him occasionally, I think he has lost some prominence with the EXP globe changes, since he's not really that great at dueling in the solo lane. But he usually just brings a lot of value in the team fight later. I felt it was a little bit easier back when you could soak experience from a much longer range than before. But ever since those EXP globe changes, I feel he can sometimes get zoned out of experience. Meanwhile, down here, we're going to see Flame Strike thrown in on the wave to clear it. So wave will be cleared by the members of ReGen Retro. ETC going to be moving into clear as well. There's an invade by ReGen Retro on the siege camp for the members of Choking Hazard. ETC and Tyrael going to be dueling on that camp, so no one has taken it yet. Aeko's so low in health, though. We're seeing a lot of people low. Tyrael's low. Greymane is low. Who's going to be killed? First, it's going to be Greymane, now Tyrael, so that's going to be a failed invade, but are we going to see that's going to be a kill on Junkrat as well, using that trait value out of Tyrael, and another kill on Kelthos as well. So that was, unfortunately, a very unfortunate invade attempt for the members of ReGen Retro. And it's going to be, instead... Actually, I might have been wrong. So, it looks like, actually, the camp was taken by ReGen Retro. But Choking Hazard's obviously coming out on the better end of that team fight, giving them about half a level lead. No, more like a quarter of a level lead. So, IJustFizzed, again, just going to move around. Anchoring in the bush with ETC. Actually, it might not be technically anchoring. He's kind of just hanging out in the bush. Here, Greymane is trying to take the camp by himself. I think once we see some rotations and support coming up from the red team players, we are going to see, yeah, Greymane's going to have to be forced off there. Greymane, unfortunately, with no self-sustain. There's the rotation from Albatoxx as well to get that stun, complete the kill on Greymane. And right now it really does just feel like the members of Choking Hazards just have the better ends of the rotation at this time. So Greymane is going to be down. Still about that half a level lead now for the members of Choking Hazards as Rainer clears out this middle lane. Going to be some pressure from Choking Hazards in the middle lane with the mercenary camp, siege camp pushing. But it will, of course, eventually be cleaned up by the members of ReGen Retro. That first camp has actually started already. Neither team is really on it. Neither team has activated. Instead, we are going to see the members of Choking Hazards capture their bruiser camp. And instead, Sonya is going to be roaming around. Sonya still trying to pick up his experience, of course, because the members of Choking Hazard just got level 7 talent tier. Aaron actually now potentially in trouble. Okay, but it does not look like Albatoxx and silverripper going to attempt to kill there, and we are going to see Bruiser Camp also picked up by the members of ReGen Retro. Luckily, with that Greymane, they've got some extremely fast camp clear. Kelthos, not too bad when you add it on top of that. They'll even be able to clear out the Bruiser Camp that was picked up by Choking Hazards. Choking Hazards, meanwhile, though, are going to have a lead on the victory. Sorry, on the objective. And they're also going to engage in the lane and take out Ana. So right now this is a rather strong start for the members of Choking Hazards. They've got a lead on the on the Infernal Shrine's objective, that shrine. So we are going to see the solo laners for both teams starting to rotate around to just catch some soak to keep the experience flow coming. Rainer's going to be helping clear out this waves, and it looks like they've got actually Junkrat soloing the shrine, and of course they will get the first shrine undoubtedly at this point. So that's why we do have, well, both solo laners, of course, just doing their job to get experience. We are, unless something changes in the favor of ReGen Retro, it should be Choking Hazards getting to 10 first. Eldruin is thrown to bait the Punisher over the wall, but the wall is already broken down, and this actually looks like it could be ZammyBARS taken down. Actually, it's not going to be. There was that engage on top of the Punisher stun, which certainly burns ZammyBARS down quite a bit. And this is actually going to be problematic. ZammyBARS doesn't have a lot of health to work with. Punisher stun again goes in, and then the ETC slides in to follow it up. So this could be actually be an entire fort taken. I don't think so, actually. It looks like Ultanian is putting enough pressure on Greymane, but here's the rotation by Blaze as well. Going to be displacing and isolating Kael'thas, and that results in a kill. At this point, I really don't think there's a mosh pit. Mosh pit. Oh, I thought he was going to use the mosh pit on the Junkrat. That was actually really funny to see that mosh pit on that Junkrat that far in. Sorry, on that Greymane that far in. And then Junkrat using his ult, kind of delaying a little bit because he didn't want to knock Greymane out of the mosh pit. But I'm actually surprised that they haven't fully taken out this fort. Now, of course, actually, although they did not take out the fort, that is still actually more than what you typically expect to get from a first Punisher. First Punisher, usually not considered particularly strong, and usually the first Punisher usually just gets the front wall. Usually does not get this much damage on a fort. So, invade started by Aeko on the Bruiser camp, sorry, on the Siege camp from the blue team. Oil going to be thrown. I feel like that also can potentially telegraph what they are doing, letting them know that, yes, they are on this camp. Also going to be sniffed out by Deltron, but far too late. And that's a siege camp that was essentially kind of given up for free. Meanwhile, let's also zoom out. Got to remember that. So we get a much better view of the battlefield with that zoom, and we are going to see, yeah, I mean, Choking Hazards on the oh my god, words just can't come out right. Far better end of the macro. I mean, we see this situation, although we do see 4 here from Choking Hazard, sorry, from ReGen Retro, so it looks like they will actually be able to invade this, well, maybe not even invade, but they scared off. And actually now it's going to be the 5v4 from ReGen Retro. Now, the problem with this is that this means Sonya, okay, Sonya does break back off to continue soaking. She does need to clear. We also do have ReGen Retro on the worst end of the experience. It's almost a full level lead in favor of the members of Choking Hazards, especially with Albatoxx actually completing the kill on that fort. Junkrat blows himself away so that he is not under any more threat. And so I also haven't taken a look. So if you take a look at our ult choices, ultimately ult choices, or heroics rather, are going to be very typical at the moment. Sanctification for Tyrael, Phoenix for Kael'thas, Cursed Bullet for Greymane, Wrath of the Berserker for Sonya, and then finally the Nano Boost for Ana. Now that Nano Boost primarily most likely going to go on the Kael'thas, but it's actually an option to put it on the Sonya as well, since Sonya is primarily an ability damage based character, and with the Wrath of the Berserker, her damage is actually pretty good. So this will be Bruiser Camp taken by Choking Hazards. And it looks like, well, Choking Hazard's also getting the earlier start on the objective too. And of course, the reason for that is the fact that ReGen Retro do not have 13 talent tiers, so they don't want to directly engage. So they're just seeing where they can get value elsewhere around the map. But we are going to see the flank. Ooh, misstun by Albatoxx. IJustFizzed was slept. I think it was a mistake to actually wake him up, because that just leads in ETC into getting the match. Manages to save 1 with the Sanctification, and actually this is going well, but here comes also the, I was going to say, the Twilight Dream, but Malfurion still does go down. We still have blue team members who are rather low on health. Aaron was so close to dying, and it actually looks like this is going to be a winning fight for ReGen Retro, or is it, with that stun from Albatoxx? And ZammyBARS is going to go down, looking for some trait value, nearly kills Rainer and actually got Blaze pretty low on hit points as well. But while all that was happening, silverripper just finishes off clearing out the shrine, and now it's also going to be a lot harder for ReGen Retro to defend. They don't have Tyrael, which makes it a lot easier for Choking Hazards to just push forward along with this Punisher. Punisher also is not going to take as much damage as it normally would because the defense has come pretty late. So it'll actually, this will help. So of course the fort goes down, and I would say this is an opportunity as also for, oh, Punisher not going to be successfully baited over the wall because ZammyBARS is just trying to walk back through. So that is a little bit of a misplay. Luckily it doesn't matter too much. The push on the keep ultimately not going to be too successful, since by then the Punisher was already down to about half of its hit points, I think less even. So what are ReGen Retro going to do? They got to know at this point, yeah. So even using the healing dart from Ana will reveal what's happening on the, basically what's happening in Fog of War. And they ultimately just have to let the mercenary camp, the siege camp in that lane go. Meanwhile, Aaron's playing a very lonely game, just trying to soak up experience, which especially happens once you're behind. Although, it's not like Albatoxx is doing things much differently. I feel Albatoxx has had the better end of actually choosing moments to stop soaking and actually join the 4-man for an engage. And of course, a lot of that also has to do with the engage potential of Blaze coming out with that jet propulsion. And meanwhile, so I mentioned the ults on the side, or the heroics on the side of ReGen Retro. Kind of got distracted from the ults on the side, or heroics on the side of Choking Hazards, although we've already seen quite a few of them in action. That Mosh Pit already getting some value. The Riptire out from Junkrat, completely standard. Going to be the Twilight Dream from Malfurion, the Rainer's Raider from Rainer, and finally the Bunker Drop from Blaze. So a lot of those also very standard, with really probably the only flexible one, the more flexible ones being the Twilight Dream and the Rainer's Raider, where theoretically you could see the other heroic choices for those characters. Not uncommon to see either Tranquility or the Hyperion, but just we don't see that in this case. Tyrael, meanwhile, gonna dive forward, using Eldrune to get in. Unfortunately, I think this is not a good dive by Tyrael, and he actually isolates himself. They were not able to really follow him. First of all, there's no Sonya there, so it's a 4v5. And then there's also the fact that we've got Greymane and Kael'thas, who are actually pretty much zoned out by the Blaze, zoned out by the ETC, and finally zoned out by the... What? How did Junkrat just die there? Well, I'm talking about how things are zoning out. Zoned out by the Chattering Teeth Steel Trap, I was trying to say. And somehow Junkrat dies in a 5v3 even. I don't know what that was all about, but nevertheless, we are going to see the Siege Camp, no, Bruiser Camp. I keep on mixing those two up. Bruiser Camp going to be taken by both Sonya as well as Kael'thas. So both teams are on even talent tier, but this is going to be probably a more important fight for the members of ReGen Retro, because they are going to have to dealing with the fact that if they do not get the Punisher, Choking Hazards will be able to march a Punisher down a lane where there's only a wall and a keep, where Choking Hazards still have a fort. In fact, they've still got the fort wall even. Attempting to go in on the... Okay, can they get the Blaze here? I highly doubt it. Not a long enough stun lock, as well as the fact that Blaze... Oh, he actually didn't have Bunker ready in that particular time. Trying to block off ETC with the Holy Ground. Shrine will be started, but there's so much poke damage that's going to be coming out from the Junkrat. Greymane now, I think Greymane's in a huge amount of trouble. He's not in a good position, but he's actually getting so much healing. The Riptire goes out, so does the Twilight Dream as well as the Mosh, and this is definitely going to be a one engagement for the members of Choking Hazards. Tyrael not even able to get trait value, because instead we see the bunker value in return. It's going to be a 3-0. And this is something that could theoretically spell out game. So Junkrat will finish the Shrine here, and it looks like the members of Choking Hazards, instead of staying on the Shrine, they're going to optimize by moving forward, pushing, taking out the keep front wall before the Punisher even gets here. To be completely honest, I think they even take the keep here without the Punisher. And then Once Junkrat finishes that, that's going to be the Punisher marching down a completely open lane toward the core, which, I mean, given that, there's actually very little reason why Choking Hazards should not just be able to finish off the game right here. So it looks like those Skeletal Defenders gonna hit 40, and here we go with the Punisher. This one will be a Frozen Punisher. Frozen Punisher, gonna march down that lane. And I mean, it's really been all about Choking Hazards all game. I think their composition with that double stun has just done a much better job at locking down targets, enabling them more teamfight wins. And it's even been Tyrael himself who has been burst down, the main tank from the members of ReGen Retro. I mean, Punisher is nearly still full health, 90%. What are they going to do? Engage on top of this? Sanctification is used on Tyrael alone, doesn't get a whole lot of value. Meanwhile, we are going to see the Riptire go in. All things considered, I'm surprised. I would say the members of the blue team of ReGen Retro are not dying as fast as I would expect them to, and they even managed to bait the Punisher over to the middle lane, onto the middle keep, which, although you're going to be losing that keep, it does buy time for the core. And somehow the members of ReGen Retro staying alive, but I might be cursing them there. Ultanian so low on hit points, but the Punisher is now nearly dead, and there hasn't been that much damage on the core. Some damage done to the shield. Shields are actually nearly dead, and it looks like Choking Hazards deciding they're just going to stay in here. A zoning North American mosh, but leads into a Torbus that actually works. And it's just going to be a lot of damage on the core, 50% on the core, down to 40. They're now starting to push the members of Choking Hazards off. It looks like this might not be a complete core defense. Or is it? ETC going to re-engage, gets the kill. Kill on Greymane, kill on Tyrael. Tyrael attempting the trait value, but not targeting anyone with low enough health except for the Junkrat, who is so fragile that he dies there too somehow. As well as the kill splash with using that nano boost from the Ana. It manages to get the solo kill on the Rainer. What a core defense this is looking like, but ETC is trying to finish it off all by himself. It's a tank and a support trying to finish off the core. Envy goes down, and now it's just ETC. ETC trying to solo Kael'thas. Can he? I think he finishes the core all by himself. He does. All right, that was actually a crazy ending to a game that otherwise was heavily in favor of Choking Hazards. So it's going to be 1-0 in favor of Choking Hazards. We've got game 2 coming up next. All right, game number 2 in our series of ReGen Retro against Choking Hazards. Going to be taking place on Volskaya Foundry, on the blue team, on ReGen Retro. We're going to have ZammyBARS now on Mal'Ganis, Ultanian on Mephisto, Deltron on the White Mane, Splash on the Rainer, and Aaron going to be on the Leoric. Meanwhile, on the other side, on the members of Choking Hazards, IJustFizzed is now going to be playing as Garrosh, Albatoxx on the Malthael, Aeko going to be on the Kel'Thuzad, and silverripper on the Cassia, and not to be left out, not last but not least, is going to be Envy on the Ana. So mid-engagement's going to happen, but man, I got to say, these are some spicy drafts in this last game. There is that Choking Hazard spray. So I feel these are some pretty spicy drafts with the Mephisto on one side. Not the most common DPS hero that we see, a rather strange hero. I don't know. I feel like he's kind of feast or famine, but that might also just be that you don't see him very often. And a few times you do see him, you might see players who aren't very good on him. But then, meanwhile, on the side of Choking Hazards, also some strange and interesting DPS choices with the Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad, I will undoubtedly say, is a very feast or famine hero. Does need to fully stack before he can really do a lot of damage. And the Cassia is also a rather strange choice. Cassia has never been a particularly popular hero, but I wouldn't say she is terrible. She is always, I think she's just been regarded as kind of niche, since she is like an auto-attack deterrent hero, since she does have her passive physical armor if you are just moving, although not when you're mounted. And she does also have shorter than standard range, so all of that kind of combines to make her not exactly a standard hero, but she can certainly put out a lot of damage. Let's make sure we also taking a look at the talents. So talents, that Cassia will be getting charged strikes. So, actually not that strange to see. The charged strikes build, it's definitely actually a mainstay for Cassia. I think it alternates between that and the Q quest, so that you can, and they serve different purposes. The Q quest going to be more for long-range poke, whereas the charged strikes build is meant more as like an area of effect and anti-melee build. So engagement's going to be happening up top as Garrosh trying to get that white mane. We are seeing Aeko is doing a decent job of connecting those roots, or sorry, rather those chains and those roots. He's at 6 stacks now. At 15, he'll get the Glacial Spike, and when he does get to full 30, he will get an increase of 75% to his spell power. So it's weird because the truth is Kel'Thuzad, it's almost like he's barely even a damage hero before you are fully stacked. It's almost like he's more like a control hero, because he mostly just provides crowd control before he gets all of his stacks. Kel'Thuzad, meanwhile, trying to also clear out this lane. Aaron going to be moving up. Did clear out that bottom wave. Albatoxx also roaming around as Malthael. We do have very strong solo laners in terms of how well they can clear both Malthael and Leoric. Typically also used for double soaking because of how fast their lane clear is. Leoric going to be tossed away instead of tossed in. Stun gonna go on, but then we're gonna have three red team members slept. Turret goes down, but is also burned down real quick. But ReGen Retro really low in hit points. Silverripper going in way too far though. I don't really like. I mean, he just overextended using Fend, and I think part of the way Cassia works is, I don't really like the idea of Fend really as an aggressive ability unless you have a stun lock that's set up by the rest of your team. Otherwise, I feel like Fend really needs to be more of a pursuing ability to execute a hero that's trying to escape. But to actually dive in with it, I think is extremely dangerous, because once you also commit to Fend, you're also not getting that passive physical armor from moving around from Warbringer. Actually, I don't think it's called Warbringer. Let's take a quick look. It's called Avoidance. I don't know even where Warbringer came from. Anyway, we are going to see, well, Leoric is already dead, trying to get back alive, but this is still not a winning fight. So many heroes are low for the members of ReGen Retro, and I think, yeah, they need to just back off and Hearth. Luckily, they've already got so much percent on the beacon, and Choking Hazards actually has so little percent that there will be enough time for the members of ReGen Retro to re-engage on it. And meanwhile, I keep on forgetting to zoom out, so there we go, zoomed out after a good 5 minutes. We'll catch on to that earlier next game. Garrosh looking to go in, see if he can invade, but this does also result in Mal'Ganis getting multiple sleeps. Garrosh is so low. Raynor also gets thrown in. Who's going to go down, though? In the end, it will be the Raynor who goes down. So many other members are going to go down. Going to be ZammyBARS going down on the Mal'Ganis. Aaron also going down on the Leoric. And that is going to be rough. That is 4 members dead for ReGen Retro. Things are going to be really rough from here on out. That is going to be a camp steal from Choking Hazards on the turrets for ReGen Retro. They will also undoubtedly get the beacon and the first Triglav Protector. Of course, the first objective on most maps is usually not particularly strong, and typically what I would expect to see is towers taken down in the middle lane, and then the Triglav probably rotating the top to get the top towers. Actually, it looks like the Triglav is not going to commit to taking out the full wall and towers in the middle lane. I think just because there was so much response in terms of damage and heroes that it seemed like, because ultimately the top lane is more important, especially getting that fountain. we're going to see ult choices come in, or heroics rather. It's actually going to be a Valkyrie from Cassia, which again I feel is less common, more pick-oriented than damage-oriented. And Kel'Thuzad actually getting a lot of roots, and more members of ReGen Retro are dying. Can Ultanian get out of here? He has to run around so that he will not get thrown by Garrosh, but there's no way that Splash is going to get out of there alive. Malthael thrown in to try to finish off Ultanian. They're chasing under a fort, but ultimately taking too much damage, and now it could be Albatoxx going down. We have the heal coming out from Envy, and it looks like Albatoxx is going to get out of there safely. So, heroics will be in for both teams. We're going to see the Warlord's Challenge out from Garrosh. Extremely typical. Nano boost yet again from the Ana. The Valkyrie from the Cassia does strike me as slightly strange. I do personally feel the Ball Lightning is a little bit better, but I also feel like Cassia has also been so out of the meta that I'm also not completely sure on that, and I would really trust a better player's opinion on it. Last Right's typical for Malthael, and finally that Shadow Fisher from the Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad actually not fully stacked, which is going to be really scary considering the fact that Choking Hazards has already been on the winning end of the team fight, and a lot of that actually has been Aeko setting up crowd control with Kel'Thuzad. And there just has been enough follow-up that they've been getting kills anyway. Once Kel'Thuzad gets stacked, he can just get the kills by himself. ZammyBARS looking to invade. He is going to be chained, but there's nothing to chain him to. At least that Glacial Spike definitely came out far too late. And what are they looking for here? Are they really looking to fight? Oh, they're trying to catch Malthael. Yeah, they should catch Malthael. That could, and I feel like should be a kill. Here's the Entomb, as well as a few other ults going to go down, and it looks like the members of ReGen Retro actually going to get a few kills there. Deltron rather, in such a precarious position on those conveyor belts. So Entomb went down. In fact, all ults went out for the members of ReGen Retro, allowing them to get those 2 kills. So they will be working on the healing camp next. We're also going to need Leoric to try to clear out this lane. Meanwhile, since they're not looking, since they're so committed to taking that healing camp, they're actually missing the fact that Choking Hazards is actually stealing their turret camp. Actually, Choking Hazards may not complete the steal on the turret camp, since that actually needs to be picked up. Oh my god! ZammyBARS too low on hit points though, so is Deltron, so is Ultanian. Not going to be a winning engagement for ReGen Retro this time, even with the Entomb there. Just too much damage on the backline. I thought we were going to see a lot happen from the Durance of Hate from the Mephisto, but I mean the Durance of Hate was actually that was actually a crazy Durance. Actually hit something like 3, I think. It might even spread to a 4th. But ultimately still losing that engagement. There wasn't really the follow-up on the Durance of Hate. Meanwhile, we also see the Scarlet Aegis, as well as the Hyperion yet again. Leoric going to go down in that top lane with 5 members of Choking Hazards just pushing through that top lane. Choking Hazards ultimately looking like the better team in both of these games. It's 10-4 in kills in favor of Choking Hazards. Aeko is going to be getting the point, and Aeko is only 2 stacks away from being fully stacked. And then we will see, okay, now he's only 1 stack away. He doesn't get that last stack, though. And now Aeko's in trouble. He's a little just too far ahead. He's isolated. IJustFizzed and Albatoxx weren't really there to support. So they find the isolation on Kel'Thuzad before he even gets his last stack. So this is going to be a 1 engagement, but a missed Entomb by Aaron. Missed Entombs are always embarrassing. As someone who also frequently plays Leoric, I always feel extremely stupid whenever I miss an Entomb. It doesn't look like an ability that should be that easy to miss. And yet, we even see players quite a bit better than I am missing them as well. So, Kel'Thuzad is actually back here. He did actually, I do believe, he does have the Phylactery of Kel'Thuzad. So he might have actually been able to... well, he's actually down to only 1 stack for the Phylactery of Kel'Thuzad, so he probably did use that to revive. Unstoppable on the Durance of Hate means it only spreads to 1 and doesn't even affect the first person that it hit. IJustFizzed in a little bit of trouble. IJustFizzed did use Taunt Taunt's going to go in. Valkyrie hits absolutely nothing. Oh, what I would give for a ball lightning here to do so much damage. But it looks like Triglav Protector is taken for the members of ReGen Retro, but Leoric dies. He doesn't even get in the Triglav Protector. Malthael, sorry, not Malthael, it's going to be Mephisto in so much trouble, and this is going to be an extremely low-value Triglav Protector. Triglav Protector secured, but then the team fight lost with it. Deltron struggling to stay alive. I mean, that's 3 kills. Part of what's tough there is that they did put their main tank in there, and I think that's actually pretty typical. But he did it at a time when they were still fighting, and then without the control and the zoning from Mal'Ganis, they were able to just walk all over the white main as well as the Mephisto. And now we actually see a Triglav Protector just clearing waves, clearing minions. This is a soaking protector. Meanwhile, Aaron still not quite on the better end of... And instead, it's the members of Choking Hazards who are pushing. And now, I bet, yeah, Kel'Thuzad now actually indeed is stacked. We are going to see that isolation, though, on Mephisto, pulling him in with the Valkyrie, and this time does secure the kill. So finally, we did see a Valkyrie actually get value. Here's going to be the flank, though, from Malthael. This time I do actually mean Malthael and not Mephisto. ZammyBARS becoming unstoppable, using his ult. Although he's using his ult, I don't know if he really wants to commit to going in because he still is missing a member of his team, and it's still a 4v5. Like, can they really afford to even go in here? Entomb hits Garrosh at best. They're going in on this. Raynor's not even there. Raynor's going for a flank. He's going to throw in the Hyperion from the back. And somehow, are they winning this engagement? Is that going to be silverripper going down? silverripper commits to offend. All right. And somehow, that was actually crazy that they managed to win that engagement. I mean, they started that off with, like, that was either a 4v5 or even a 3v5 with only the Mal'Ganis and the Leoric going in at first. Raynor, of all people, going for a flank and putting in the Hyperion coming in from the back. That was actually crazy. What a way to get back into this game. So Mal'Ganis going to be healed up a bit by that white mane, giggling around. But oh man, even Mal'Ganis getting hit by those abilities from Aeko, but there is the Entomb, actually traps in someone. That was actually Cassia who did get stuck there. And before, you know, I kind of commented on the Cassia being strange, but it does kind of make sense against a team that is picking Raynor, since Raynor is a heavily auto-attack based hero. And I do see Raynor actually still going with that ace in the hole at level 1. A recently nerfed talent. Now does 10% more damage to stunned or slowed heroes, whereas before it was 15. And some people have been talking about this and now believe that Exterminator is probably just the better talent choice. Of course, the two talents do two very different things, but we're talking about a very minor increase to hero damage compared to a very, very powerful increase to non-heroes. But Splash, going to go with that hero damage. I mean, I guess I could say I do feel that this is a rather team fight-based map, in the sense that you do have to fight over those Triglav Protectors on the beacons at some point. So the members of ReGen Retro gonna push down this bottom lane. Leoric was there, and Leoric is gonna be alone. He is gonna be isolated, and he will be killed. And Leoric, it is so late in the game that even Leoric's death timer is going to be quite long. He is trying to use his abilities even while he's in his Wraith form, or actually it's more like his Ghost form. I think Wraith form would be like his Wraith walk, so that he can get back out on the field faster. Oh no, we've got ReGen Retro. They're already being engaged on. It is a 4v5, but the Durance of Hate is in. IJustFizzed is so low, but the combos from Kel'Thuzad are just so much more powerful. Is that blind as a bat from Mal'Ganis? Thought I saw him jump around a few times there. We do have members of Choking Hazards that are so low. Oh no, they just barely getting Albatoxx out of there. And actually, it's going to be Garrosh going down, so trading out kills. In spite of the Kel'Thuzad combos coming in. Oh, but that's going to be... It's going to be ZammyBARS going down as well. Raynor will be pulled in. Could possibly go down there, but he has a penetrating round to knock them off. Unfortunately, for ReGen Retro, they did give up the top fort. There was a mercenary camp. In fact, there's still a mercenary camp pushing in this lane. I don't know why I said there was. And level 20s are going to be coming in for these teams. So we are going to have Seeker Swarm out of Mal'Ganis. I think that is probably the best choice. Seeker Swarm, giving him bats after he uses his regular ultimate. The way it works at level 10 will release a wave of bats that will actually sleep all enemies. A lot of playmaking potential. Mimic from Mephisto, buried alive, extremely common for Leoric. Arguably, in my opinion, one of the best ults in the game. And there it is missed, which is so sad, especially with that sleep going in onto Raynor. But the conveyor belts might just save the Raynor. Uses Unstoppable coming from the level 20 Hyperion upgrade. I'm not actually sure if the Unstoppable did anything there, but I think it was more just he was scared and afraid and was using it just in case. I mean, he certainly got out of there alive just fine. So level 20 Scarlet Aegis, giving even more healing from the white main as well as the Unstoppable. All things that could be useful against a Garrosh taunt or combos from Kel'Thuzad. In fact, the Scarlet Aegis, if used correctly, is definitely a good response. We are going to see the Carrion Swarm save Mal'Ganis. Here is the engagement. I feel like Raynor's a little bit too close. IJustFizzed is low. ZammyBARS still going in. Gets thrown out. Now it's going to be Splash going down. ZammyBARS so low, goes down, but so does Garrosh. It's going to be 3-4, 3-3. Not in terms of the players that are here. Aaron goes down as well. Everybody's dying. Eventually, it feels like we're going to see a 5-for-5. Just kidding. It's going to be a 3-for-4. ReGen Retro just barely coming out on top of that. So on the other side of the red team, our members of Choking Hazards, we do see Titanic Might for Garrosh, throwing 2 enemies instead of 1. The Nano Infusion to heal the Nano Boost targets. Titan's Revenge from Cassia, increasing her range, which is probably the important thing, but also making her ignore armor. No one can stop death, pretty typical for Malthael, allowing him to basically buy back on a cooldown. And finally, the Might of the Scourge to just upgrade that Shadow Fisher. Does cast a second Shadow Fisher 1 second later if it does hit a hero. But we are going to see... We're going to see them... It looks like they're just going core. Garrosh is back up. So is Envy. So is Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad being back up is pretty big, because this is the damage that could potentially stop, especially with a Nano Boost from Envy. And it looks like they're just going hard in on the core. I don't know if it's going to be enough. The Protector is nearly dead, and then it's going to be Mephisto and Whitemane coming out, and it looks like it is just going to be barely enough. And ReGen Retro actually going to take Game 2, so it's a tied 1-1 series, and we've got one more game left. All right, game number 3 in our best-of-3 series between ReGen Retro and Choking Hazards. On the side of ReGen Retro, going to be ZammyBARS on the ETC, Ultanian. This time going to be on the Chromie, Deltron on Tyrande, Aaron once again on the Leoric, Splash now going to be on the Sylvanas. On the other side of things, it's going to be IJustFizzed on, got to be on Johanna. It's actually hard to read who's on who right now. Albatoxx on the Chen, going to be Aeko on the Maiev, Envy on the Lucio, and then finally that's silverripper, I think, on once again on the Junkrat. So, meanwhile, we're going to have this starting engagement. Leoric actually choosing to use his Wraithwalk to get out of there. I think he even just used it partly for the unstoppable effect so that he wouldn't get knocked over by Junkrat's concussion mine. And we're going to see this starting engagement it's actually looking like it's going well for Albatoxx. Albatoxx playing as Chen, a rather strong solo laner in my opinion, who in my opinion is very good at dueling, and we're seeing how good he is at dueling there with the damage that he's been putting out on Leoric, combined with the fact that he is also healing up for some of that damage, because he did go Eye of the Tiger at level 1. A talent that when I first saw that as being the meta talent initially did not make sense to me, but it allows Chen to sustain in the lane while also putting a lot of pressure on whoever he's laning against. Pressure in the form of damage, scaring off that opposing solo laner into having to tap, having to hearth, etc. Actually, there's no real etc. Those are really the only two things. Deltron, meanwhile, going to be clearing along with the help from ETC. ETC going for that prog rock so that eventually he can contribute some heals too, which is going to be probably helpful given that Tyrande. I often feel Tyrande is somewhat of a low throughput healer, although I do like Tyrande very much. One of my favorite healers, actually. Raw Stun going to go in on the Junkrat. And Splash is in here deep. I think Splash is in trouble, but of course he's going to use his... He's going to just get out of there. I need to double check that. He's going to use his Haunting Wave. I was going to call it the Windrunner, but no, it's the Haunting Wave to get out of there. That is Sylvanas' movement ability. And typically what we see on this map, we do see the 4-man rotating between these top 2 lanes to clear them out. Since these top 2 lanes are rather close together, while our solo laners typically just go in the bottom. But Splash, meanwhile, actually going to be taking control of the bottom lane. I think Leoric probably felt that he was having a lot of trouble dealing with Chen in the bottom lane, so they decided to make a lane switch and put Sylvanas down here instead. Meanwhile, I did actually see the ETC get killed down here. And gems are both at about 30-ish for both teams, with the members of Choking Hazards already starting to get their turn-ins. IJustFizzed moving around with that Johanna, and Johanna, she's going for hold your ground at 1, pretty typical. Also choosing to get that stronger wave clear from Sins Exposed at level 4, a very common talent. She can very effectively clear waves even by herself. Junkrat in a little bit of trouble here, only a little bit I say, because of course he's going to do that, get stunned, but there's not enough follow-up. And he does get out of there. It was a precarious position for him, though. Bruiser Camp was picked up for Choking Hazards, which will allow them to push down this middle lane if they so choose, because as long as they're in range of this big mage minion, who is actually going to be burned out real quickly, they will get 20 spell armor, but they aren't able to really capitalize on that. Aeko, meanwhile, somewhat in trouble, got stunned by ETC, but there is not much follow-up. They are going to zone for silverripper to get his turn in. Both teams are very, very close to having enough gems for a turn in. Both teams now do in fact have enough gems for a turn in, and it's just going to be a matter of who can get it turned in first. A lot of the gems are on Albatoxx for the members of Choking Hazard, so Albatoxx needs to turn if they want to get those web weavers and get the first objective phase started. So strong wave clear from Johanna, although getting the Sins Exposed instead of the Conviction does weaken her engagement abilities a little bit. So they might also be relying, say, on the Lucio movement speed to get the Johanna in. Might also be relying on Chen for initiations and team fights. So a lot of damage taken there from those Chromie shots from Ultanian. Down here, we are going to see Leoric will complete a turn. Again, Albatoxx. So at this point, they actually don't necessarily need Albatoxx to be the one to turn. They have enough gems that somebody else can turn. ZammyBARS looking to zone out people from getting a turn in. Goes in for a power slide, but it misses completely. ETC going to be finding himself standing on Junkrat's trap. And at this point, it's just a lot of trying to see if they can get a turn. So maybe even see if they can get a gank on Leoric. Because both teams have the gems to turn. It's going to be about a half a level lead for Choking Hazards. And now we do see the members of ReGen Retro attempting ganks on both on the Chen as well as the Maiev, but Maiev has enough escape mechanisms that they get out of there alive. And it's actually going to be ReGen Retro getting the first turn. I think part of the reason that worked is most of the gems were still concentrated on Albatoxx, with some of them also on Aeko. So those were really the members that they needed to zone out of a turn more than just about anyone else. Teamfight, meanwhile, going to go down in the middle lane. Ultanian's not going to get out of this one alive. It doesn't look like Deltron is either, and it's actually going to be a massive teamfight win for the members of Choking Hazards, which is going to go a long way to nullifying the effectiveness of this objective. Even going to be tethering in ETC, but he does have a face melt ready to knock off the Maiev or any other heroes that might attempt to follow up on him. So Johanna clearing out the top lane, Chen attempting to clear out the bottom lane. Bottom lane is looking like where it's going to be the most progress, but Chen actually going to be able to kill Splash. So look at that damage pressure that Chen puts on. Soloing, practically, yeah, I mean, literally soloing the Sylvanas there, because I think the Sylvanas had probably already committed Haunting Wave offensively. That's my best guess. Now Albatoxx is in trouble, does activate Stagger, actually taking barely any damage. Oh, Maiev getting 2 tethers. Here's the Warden's Cage, and what are we going to have? Is that a Wandering Keg? It is a Wandering Keg, and we're also going to see Fan of Knives resets. And ultimately, it looks like we're going to get out of here with not a single kill. It looked like such a crazy engagement, but not a single kill. So, Heroics coming out. Oh my, what is he doing over here? What is Chromie doing over there? My God. So there's our kill. So, heroic choices coming in for Choking Hazards. Blessed Shield, pretty typical for Johanna. Of course, though, these days I do feel that Falling Sword does have a lot of applications. I think it always has, actually. But in general, Blessed Shield, the more reliable of the two. Sound Barrier from Lucio. That's pretty much the only heroic that exists. Warden's Cage. Wandering Keg is a strange one, and then the Riptire is not a surprise. Oh yeah, the Riptire on top of the Warden's Cage, that's a good old yoink and boink. A phrase that was coined by Trickslayer back in the HGC days, but never actually really caught on. And it's going to be a Webweaver turn-in for Choking Hazards. They've got 6 kills to 0, so they've actually got quite a big edge. But now, heroic choices are going to come in for the members of ReGen Retro. Unfortunately, they are going to be giving up this bottom fort entirely, instead choosing to clear out the other lanes. They've got their heroics, but they're also still at a 2-level deficit. So they're on even talent tiers, but there are also statistical differences to consider. So we've got a mosh pit from ETC. Often these days, hard to really get off because there are so many ways of. There are often so many ways of interrupting it. So I think what I might want to see in this engagement is possibly the engagements starting out with the Wailing Arrow from Sylvanas first, which makes it harder for them to interrupt the mosh pit. No one's actually going to be caught in the Warden Cage, or maybe that's going to be Sylvanas pushed back in there. Sylvanas just rubber banding around, getting pushed by the Wandering Keg. There is an Entomb, as well as a mosh pit. Ults going off all over the place. So many low health bars. Who's going to go down first? It's going to be the Lucio, as well as the Maiev. Chromie is going to go down too. They're not going to be the only ones. It's going to be Lioric going down as well. Can we even catch the Johanna? She is possibly slowed here, and there is going to be a stun. This should be silverripper dying too. Where's the auto? And can they... Oh no, IJustFizzed has 39 gems. He does have another... Oh no, why isn't Splash there with them? Albatoxx is going to go down as well. Oh dear, Albatoxx goes down, and so does IJustFizzed. They just lost almost 80 gems there. That is huge. That's also going to be a turn-in for the members of ReGen Retro. If they really want to optimize it, they might want to see if they can go for a boss play. I think they even ping the boss. The kind of the maximization or the optimization here is to get the boss and complete the turn-in at the same time, so that you have both the boss as well as the web weavers pushing down the top lane. Come on, ZammyBARS. Don't get stunned by the boss. But we might see are we going to see an engagement attempt with 3? I don't think it's even possible. silverripper in trouble. And actually, they're being pulled away from the boss, and it's just becoming an engagement. They're not even going to get the boss, I don't think. Actually, they're still on the boss. But now everyone's here. This is a full-on engagement. Oh, no. This is a huge throw for the members of ReGen Retro. Oh, no. No, not like this. Okay, Wailing Arrow does go in, but Ultanian is absolutely dead. There's not a whole lot they can do, and that is just going to be them giving up the boss to Choking Hazards. That was a huge throw. A huge throw. Like, I can't stress just how much of a throw that was. And I think it actually happened because they were trying to commit to the fight. They were actually leaving the boss and then trying to fight. But that gave enough time for IJustFizzed to get back in there, for Albatoxx to get back in there as well. And then they take the boss away. I mean, all things considered, I don't think it's going to really do much to... It's not going to do a whole lot in terms of, like, the structure damage. It doesn't really win the game for Choking Hazards, but that was a potential power play for ReGen Retro. It was a massive potential power play. They would have minimum taken down the fort, probably also taken the keep front wall, possibly taken the keep, and honestly I would say there was even an argument that they could have straight off won the game if they had actually gotten the boss. But now they're in a position where they're down 2 levels, down 16 talent tier, they've got the gems, but they have to be extremely careful because Choking Hazards are going to have the advantage if they try to engage on ReGen Retro. IJustFizzed gets the stun on Johanna, but not enough follow-up there. Aaron's low on hit points. Why was he already so low? There is going to be the Yoink and Boink with the Warden's Cage as well as the Riptire. ZammyBARS is going to pick up the gems that were dropped by, I don't even remember who at this point. I think it was Sylvanas, which was splash on that hero, but Deltron goes down as well. This is just falling apart for ReGen Retro. I swear, I really feel like they had it when they were at that boss. They just, that in-the-moment shot calling when they were on the boss, unfortunately, I think led to them making the wrong call that has cost them so much. Like, at this point, it's just getting worse and worse for ReGen Retro. I don't see them coming back into this game at this point. It's not impossible, and there have definitely been teams that have come back from these kinds of things, but this is a very, very strong lead for Choking Hazards. They're up 17-14. 3-level leads are extremely difficult to deal with. Nothing made out of that temporal loop from Chromie. Almost a 4-level lead, 3-level lead. They're still down a talent tier, and the statistical difference of being down 3 levels makes it incredibly hard to win a team fight. Entomb goes in, but there's no arrow to go along with it, no Wailing Arrow. It just wasn't ready. So nothing is really achieved with the Entomb either. I mean, at this point, they're really just hoping for a core defense. Leoric isn't here because he's trying to get the team to level 16. Albatoxx moving to the bottom lane. They might even be trying to push for bottom. No, I mean, at this point, they should really just push for getting a Webweaver turn in, and it's going to happen at this point. There is that Webweaver turn in, and what could have been a close game is quickly spiraling out of control for the members of ReGen Retro and heavily in favor of Choking Hazards. Leoric still trying to soak. At this point, if anything, I think the members of ReGen Retro should fight sooner and later. They're on even talent tier. The Webweavers aren't here yet. That's when I think they really want to fight. And they finally do go in. It's not quite working out yet. Chromie's in timeout. Wailing Arrow goes in. But Deltron is dying. So is Splash. Just Maev is just completely on top of them. Oh, of course. I should have known. The person engaging in this composition for Choking Hazards is going to be Maev. And ultimately, this is definitely going to be game in favor of the members of Choking Hazards. Very, very sad considering that potential power play that I saw for ReGen Retro could have been a much more even game than it was. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this game. I do hope you enjoyed this Heroes of the Storm cast. Have a good night.